All right, we are live on Thursday night on Up on the Bars, Long Live the Chaz, Speed Union TV, you name it. Tonight we are getting ready to do a town hall debate, much like a presidential debate. It's called the Summit. So starting off in the one corner in red, and it's red wine, we have the one, the only, the infamous Chaz Thompson. So welcome to the show, Chaz, as we bring you in.
Oh my! How's it going? I don't know why it's this big debate. I see a lot of agreements tonight happening personally.
All right, and on the other side of the aisle, I don't know how you want to call it, we have a TV show analyst, racing TV analyst, NASCAR driver, UMP modified driver, Herman the German, as he mentioned earlier today. Welcome, Kid Wallace.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, so I want to kick off tonight. I watched your little podcast earlier this week on YouTube where you made a trip to, I'm not even going to try to remember the name, but it is the old Gateway asphalt track there at St. Louis, because everybody knows you're from St. Louis and you're proud of that. What did you see out there? Because I know you saw Justin Allgaier, David Reagan, and John Hunter Nieverstedt. What are you seeing out of the new cars over there this year?
Well, I was just able to get close up to the cars and see what they're really all about. You know, they're a complicated car. It's like a passenger car. You open the front hood up, and it's like the only thing you're missing is the air conditioner condenser. All the crew members say that it takes a lot of new, different tools to work on it. But besides the race car, I was able to just see Justin Allgaier, congratulate him on his win at Darlington in the Xfinity Series, and see David Reagan and, John Hunter Nemechek. I think the other thing that was, very exciting for me is the upgrades at that racetrack. So it's called Worldwide Technology Raceway. It's a big company here in St. Louis, and they create a lot of software for computers, and they're big sponsors over there. And but the upgrades at the racetrack are just really nice, and it's just good to see that happen for the St. Louis and the Midwest area.
Right, and I remember watching some of the Gateway races back during the day, and then it just disappeared. It's kind of cool to see them back over there. And I know when you go into St. Louis, the I-70 Speedway there, right outside Kansas City Royal Stadium, or that area.
Odessa.
Yeah, that was cool to always go see that, and then now it's just overgrown into nothing. It's kind of sad to see the affairs that are there.
They just rebuilt.
Yeah, they rebuilt that track. They just brought World of Outlaws back for the first. I was actually at the World of Outlaws race last year. I-70's back in business completely right now. They just had USAC sprint cars there this last weekend.
Well, I hadn't been back that way in a couple of years, so I apologize.
But hey, they're bringing racetracks back, North Wilkesboro. I mean, look at it. So
yeah. So I know we all travel around and seen racetracks. Kenny, did you ever get to go see the Atomic Speedway right there outside of Knoxville?
I never did. I've run a lot of dirt tracks, hundreds of them, but there's a handful of them that I really would like to run, but it's too late in the game now. I'll be 59 in August, and I've run a lot of dirt tracks all over America and up into Canada, but never got there. Now the other one, the one up in Ohio, that used to be called Atomic, and now that has a different name to it. But I never got there.
Well, that one outside of Knoxville, that clay up there was amazing. The little front wheel drive cars that have the left rear tire up in the air instead of the.
I watch that race.
Oh, that is so amazing to watch those guys race over there. And that was one that I was really glad I got to see. And Heartland Express has taken over. There's a big Heartland Express yard where it was at now. And so I am going to step out of the moderator role and step away.
Hey, we could talk. We could keep talking racetracks. I mean, that's fine with me too. I mean, racetracks are fun.
Well, and when I was transporting RVs out there, I went the first time to Eldora. Oh my God, that's insane. What they've done there is just crazy. I love that facility. And you were talking earlier about your Earl Baltus hat above your head there. That was a cool story. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, Eldora, Rossburg, Ohio. That's the definition. If you build something that's exciting, people will find it. And I mean, to this day, if you don't really know what you're looking for, because the racetrack's down in a hole, you could drive right by that racetrack right now if you don't know anything about that area. But yeah, Earl Baltus, they had a fundraiser when he was totally done at that racetrack. I was invited to this fundraiser. I was keynote speaker, and Earl's very last hat he wore. I got it, and it's got the dust on it and everything. It's been in a plastic case forever. I went ahead and put it up there, and then the picture with me and Earl. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and Chaz does videos. I do kind of this thing, and we're streaming and all that stuff. But you've been doing YouTube stuff where you're unpacking all your boxes.
Yeah, that was cool.
That's very cool. I got to tell you, that's way cool. When you're going through there, you're like, holy crap, I didn't even know I had this. And then you're talking about your wife, how neatly she packed everything into the boxes. I got very, very cool.
Well, the whole YouTube started with you have news stations here in St. Louis, Channel 5, 4, and 2. And Charlie Marlowe, he was on the sports every night. And he's a friend of mine. He called me up and he said, man, why don't you do YouTube? And I said, Charlie, I don't know anything about it. So, I've been fighting long enough on social media, and I thought, you know what, I need to take a break from all this fighting and arguing. So I said, let's do YouTube. And I just give Charlie all my content. I send it to him, and he edits it all up. And, I went down to the Mexican border when I raced in Yuma, Arizona.
I saw that. That was cool.
I wasn't going to go there, Chaz. And Kenny Schrader said,
I mean, you got to – something that people don't really take advantage of when they're on these trips is going and doing something outside the racetrack. So when you went and did something like that that's impactful, that's near a racetrack, it gets people to see what's actually going on, because a lot of people are just listening to what their TVs tell them and not actually seeing what is actually occurring. So you got to actually show what is happening,
Yeah. So that started off one morning. I guess it might have been 9:30, 9 o'clock. And Kenny Schrader and my brother Mike were all staying at the same hotel across the street from, Coca-Cola Speedway there in Yuma. Schrader's like, what are you doing, bub? I said, oh, downstairs getting a coffee. He said, bring me one. So I went up to his room, and I said, man, the sheriff of Yuma wants me to go visit the border. I said, I don't want to go. Schrader got all serious. He goes, no, you need to go. And I said, really? He had went the year before, and I had no idea what I was in for. And, I mean, as you saw, I arrived, and, hell, they were going at it right away. And I they wanted me to document everything I saw. And, the U.S. Border Patrol sponsored by Race Car in the NASCAR series. So, man, it was I learned so much. It was so disappointing, from the standpoint that the people in Mexico, they love America. They want to come here. But, it's just a free-for-all. Nobody's documented. They just fly over here. And once they get their feet on American soil, they're here. And that's just that. And it's not that they're bad people, but they're not doing it legally. And it's a disaster. It's like Trump said, you either have a border or you don't. And there truly is no border. It's complete chaos. And it was an eye-opener.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could come close to that I went to was I was in Chico doing some stuff with the sprint car scene up there. And then a group took over Seattle and called it the Chaz. I don't know if you remember this. The group called it the Chaz.
That's
and
fantastic.
I was like, okay, you're going to call it the Chaz, huh? So I packed I ain't scared of nothing. I drove right up into it. I drove right up there, walked right in with the damn cowboy hat on, and jeans. And, honestly, in that moment, people were calling me and saying, what are you doing, Chaz? You got to turn around. There's people in there with, you heard of, guns, all this. let's just go see what it is. And really, this is when I got my first real shot at seeing how two sides kind of play the game, and they try to scare one side or the other. Because I went in there thinking I may get shot, stabbed, killed. I'm not supposed to be in there, you know? And I went in there, and it was weird. It was like it was a music festival or something. Obviously, they took over the city. There's wrong, right, whatever you want to say in that. But it was completely just different than anything that anyone could have told me I was walking into. It wasn't I didn't feel like I was about to be attacked or anything like that. There was a lot of things that were going on in there, but it felt very organized. It was very weird. But when I walked in there, of course, they had their reasons. I had mine. And I told them, you know, they call me the Chaz in the racing world. And, you know, I kind of, you know, the racing world to me kind of really exposes the real segregation of the world, which is money. You get treated differently. The racing world's 95% Anglo-Saxon, since, you know, and you get treated differently in this racing world based on how much money you have. If you have a certain amount of money, you're going to be treated a certain way and projected in media a certain way. And if you don't, you're going to be treated another way. And it don't matter what shade or anything you are, you know. And honestly, I think that's kind of been my premise is in racing, you know, and it's a great example. It is a great example to the segregation situation or any kind of left-right stuff on that side of things. But that is a really interesting thing that they actually related to and actually could understand. They didn't know about these racing things, these different types of motorsports. Oh, wow, it's $5 million or 3.5 to rent out a truck. That's how you start out to be a NASCAR driver? Oh, I thought that you just went out and performed better than someone else. I didn't know you had to buy your way there. You know, so it's very interesting how things work. I don't want to ramble for 30 minutes or an hour.
No, what? So, you know, of course, I don't know about all that. I know where I started here in St. Louis. I was poor. You know, Rusty, my dad, my brother Mike, we raced here in town, and we became good enough, had enough talent on a local level building our race cars. And our dream was always to make it to NASCAR. Right. And we made it to NASCAR, selling ourselves. There's an old saying, if you're going to play, you got to pay. And right. So I was able to acquire sponsorship and make it to the biggest form of motorsports, which was NASCAR, and realize my dream. And stay there for 904 races and, you know, realize the dream. And just, you know, once you get to the big show, it's not all fun. You know, there's an old saying, Chaz, be careful, young man, competition will kill you. So,
well, wouldn't you say that day and age that you came up in was a different day and age? Like how you performed mattered a little bit differently. The age you were didn't matter as much. I mean, there's a lot of differences between the era that you came up in and the era that we deal with today. Even the era you came up in, being a NASCAR driver wasn't necessarily this glamorous position over every form of American motorsports like it is today. Today, if you're a NASCAR Cup driver, you're perceived, I would say, by most average people as a Tom Brady. You're in the NFL of racing. I think back in that day, you had more different segments of motorsports that were kind of viewed more evenly, you know. IndyCar racing was traditionally bigger than NASCAR racing up until the mid-90s. Maybe not in the Southeast, maybe not in your traditional area that you wanted to aspire to be. Everybody had their different aspirations based on where they were from. But I just think that those are two different eras, you know. I mean, you speak of the ages that people were getting into cup racing in that day. It's not, you know, it seems like now you got to be 17 or 18 years old. I mean, most people would look at the current Kyle Busch situation and kind of see the corporatism of trying to get Ty Gibbs into that car very soon. And that's what's really happening. You know, this is the situation in motorsports that we're dealing with today. And my bigger problem with it is a 25-year-old sprint car driver, a David Gravel, for instance, and I've talked to him about this. he is viewed as in a illogical but logical perspective to the average person as someone who must have failed in the high school or college of racing and didn't make it to the NFL called NASCAR. And he's running World of Outlaws sprint cars as a AAA league because he obviously just wasn't better than the other guys, or he would be in the NFL like everyone else. So these are the perceptions and respect factor that I think back in your day wasn't necessarily there as it is now. There's been a lot of corporatism and manipulation through marketing, I believe, that has placed NASCAR in this perceptional area. And it's very smart. It's very, very smart. But it's not logical. And I got a problem with it because I don't think a driver like a David Gravel or a Brandon Overton, and I talked to Chase Elliott about this at Bristol last year. When I explain this, it makes sense. I think it is very disrespectful for a NASCAR driver to be viewed as an NFL level talent, but a World of Outlaw or top performing dirt racer to be viewed any lower, in my perception. That's what I believe.
So Michael Rigsby and myself did an interview about a year ago, and he said, Kenny, he says, there's this vision that all NASCAR people hate dirt racers. He says, is that true? I said, I have no idea where you got that from. I said, that's the farthest thing from the truth. And to your take, you know, obviously I know all those guys very well. Jeff Gordon is David Gravel's biggest fan. Jeff Gordon has done all he can do for David Gravel. We watched Slammin' Sammy Swindell, Steve Kinzer. I would say that, you know, Chaz, if you stay too long in dirt racing, and, you know, it is true that everybody loves youth. Jeff Gordon talked about this years ago, that youth is a big fantasy. You know, we look at some of these dirt racers. Oh, my God, you know, look at this kid. He's 14 years old. And, you know, or Bobby Pierce.
Roy, your back feed's happening pretty bad. It's clicking. Just continue. I hear continue. I didn't want people to not hear what you're saying because it's kind of ending the end of your sentences and your points.
Okay, I don't know. Is that me or who is that?
No, it's on his end. We were trying to fix it earlier. I just wanted to make sure everybody could hear you clearly. It's better now.
Yeah. This is always going to be a situation in racing as long as there's money involved. I called Jonathan Davenport up and I said, Jonathan, I want to de-bullshit something. I said, how much are those motors you're running, those super late models? He said, 60 grand. I said, $60,000. And then, you know, I know that Jonathan Davenport's got the biggest sponsor in all of super late model racing. So, you know, I'm watching my friends Kyle Hammer, Gordy and Trevor Gundaker trying to run with the World of Outlaws. We see the same thing in every division. People ask me, how come you don't run a super late model? I'm like, are you crazy? No way. If you're gonna run Lucas Oil or World of Outlaw late models or XR or Flow, it's gotta be $1 million a year. And you know, for me, what you're talking about is it's that way in every sport. I mean, I don't know where they get the money to run these super late models because I talk price with those guys all the time. And, you know, and I'm like, you're paying 60 grand for a super late model loader. So I hear you. It's a problem in every sport, but you know, that's life.
Well, I mean, they're paying 60 grand for a late model, but I mean, ARCA 1.2 million for a year. Venturini's known. I mean, KBM 3.55. I mean, I do think that the price is very high, but if you could be successful like a Madden or a Davenport, you could somewhat make a little bit back with the sponsors. I mean, it seems like most successful dirt racers now, or even racers, period, even into the, you know, those numbers I just laid out to even start your NASCAR career. It seems like you have to win the operational costs and then sponsor to maybe make some money. And that seems to be the theme for a World Outlaw team or Lucas or World Outlaw team, is that they try to win as much as they can to afford the operationals, and then the sponsors and everybody else is what actually helps pay their bills that they live, you know. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I I do think that that's kind of where things are a little different than back in your day that we're talking. I mean, you brought up Earl Baltus earlier. I mean, 1984 Kings Royal, $50,000 to win at Eldora. You know, brand new dually truck is $6,500 in this day. You know, you win $50,000, and mind you, back to the more equilibrium deal, the 1984 Talladega 500 paid $47,000. So Steve Kinser was winning more money than the NASCAR Cup winner in this day. You know, so I think that money has fallen behind a little bit from the operational and expense. You know, it's hard to perform and win what you're doing. I do think the XR series is helping out a little bit this year on the late model side. They're kind of paying a little bit more. I think the competition on the late model side is way better than the competition on the sprint car side as far as payout, because they got to pay a lot of money to get drivers to show up. Whereas the sprint car side's kind of, I don't want to say cartelled, but their stars are in contracts with World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series. They can't go anywhere. So a promoter could put on a $100,000 race. If the World of Outlaws don't want you to run, you can't run it. I mean, so I think things have got out of whack, but I also say, you brought up Jeff Gordon. I think the Jeff Gordon era is a big reason for this issue in racing. The young gun surge that took off NASCAR with Jeff Gordon, and I could say Cole Trickle, although they're both sprint car drivers from California. But the young gun surge from Jeff Gordon coming up, battling Dale Sr. or Rowdy, however you want to see it. And then that kind of really blowing up NASCAR at the same time as CART and IRL are splitting. You know, the IndyCar scene that was so dominant in American motorsports for years was getting split in two. And it just opened up the floodgates for NASCAR to take over. And it seemed like, I don't know if they recognized it or not, but they blew up extremely in that era from the mid-90s until 2000s. They just started taking over. And then following that, they were on their surge, led on with that. But I think they really want to say that the young gun is what got them to that level, because Jeff Gordon came in and you saw this influx of new fans and the sport blowing up so quickly. I mean, I think there's a lot to that where young guns is a deal. I think where NASCAR is lacking, though, as far as their product that they're selling to people, is people enjoy the young gun. Yes, they love the Cole Trickle, but they like that working man representation that he was going up against. You know, that Dale Sr. character, the Rowdy Burns character, that guy who had worked his ass off to get where he's got. And he may be a little older, but he worked to it. Here comes this young gun who got the car given to his hands, and it's the young guy, preppy little rich kid versus the old working man. And I think what's really killing them and kind of racing overall is they don't really have this working man representation anymore. And I think the reason they don't have this working man representation is you can't always just take the money, you know, and there's so many people trying to be a star in racing right now. I mean, racing the motorsports world, I wouldn't compare it to a sport. I compare it to movies and music, because it's people willing to give out any amount of money to be a star. You know, you really don't have to be better talent-wise to advance in sports or in this sport. I wouldn't call it a sport. I would call it an entertainment industry at this point. This is where it's at. I would call dirt racing a sport to an extent. I mean, there's some money situations in there that separate a local modified driver from a super late model star. You know, there's a guy who can only afford an IMCA modified. You know, a Dallin Murdy right now in Iowa, who's just probably one of the best drivers in the country. Jumps in a modified, wins first row out. But if some old man don't come by and say, "I love your kid, here's $5 million to go pursue a truck ride," like Kyle Larson got, he would be stuck here in Iowa for the rest of his life. You know, I was talking to the promoter at Stockton the other night. No matter how good you think Kyle Larson is, and we could shift if we want to this, if Kyle Larson don't get a few breaks and a few people, old men in particular, who think he's so special and gave him some money, he would be racing sprint cars in Stockton, California, and up and down the West Coast right now. And these opportunities, how many other – Kyle Larson's a great natural talent. I believe that the racing ability that he has is natural. It's God-given. You can't just learn how to drive like Kyle Larson. You're not going to do it, no matter how many Keith Kuhn midgets you rent for $300,000 a year. You're not going to learn how to be that good. How many other natural talents are there out there that are just left behind? And I don't necessarily want to get all these guys to NASCAR. My goal has always been the world, first of all, needs to learn what dirt racing is, which Kyle Larson has helped just a little bit. But they also need to understand how these drivers are some of the baddest son of a bitches in American motorsports in particular. And you have to project this sport in these drivers. Anybody who wants to, you know, promote dirt racing, you have to project these drivers as the baddest son of a bitches, better than NASCAR drivers, hell, better than F1 and Lewis Hamilton with his little hairdo. You got to project these guys as the best because we live in America. We don't want to see Robin. We want to watch Batman. You know, so I know I went on a ramble. I jumped different topics. I can go for hours. I mean, I'm sorry.
I can clean it all up for you.
I mean, you can get the sweeper out as long as we don't talk about Felix Sabates. As long as we don't talk about Felix Sabates.
So it sounds to me like you want to fix it all, and
I mean, it's bad.
You can't.
You can't.
And you're right about everything. Everybody's got to have a break, and everybody's got to put themselves in that positions. I tell my kids, I say, listen, go out and meet people. You cannot sit. Now, listen, if you have the desire and you want to do whatever you want to do, listen, I taught, you know, all those guys are my friends, you know, and they all want to run the World 100 or the Dream. And, you know, they can't get there. Not everybody's going to make it, you know, and it's hard. It's tough. You know, I commend you for wanting everybody to be equal or to get there, but I can promise you everybody in NASCAR thinks Jonathan Davenport and Jimmy Owens, everybody in NASCAR knows those guys are badasses. So
I'm not, and this is what I was saying earlier. I don't want them to get their shot. I don't want no shot. My goal would be to tell the public, if I could get on Fox News tomorrow, my goal would be to tell the public that NASCAR is full of a majority of paper champions at the end of the day. And Dallin Murray's a harder person to beat. Mike McKinney's a harder person to beat. Chase Briscoe, if you go talk to the state of Indiana, was a field fielder for most of his career. Anybody in the state of Indiana can go do what Chase Briscoe's doing, just about. The winners can. The other guys who work for what they got, Chase Briscoe, great guy, got opportunities, took advantage of them when he could. This is a guy who's running up front in NASCAR or has a potential to win races, potential to win championships.
Chaz,
I don't really care about giving them chances in NASCAR. I care about giving them the respect they deserve.
You can't be mad at all that. You can't be mad at those people,
but
Chaz.
that's what's hurting the sport is the perception of these dirt racers are lower form grassroots labels, which is why I've told and got a bunch of track promoters to reject the grassroots label. Because that's a lower form representation. You know, you don't want to project what you're selling as grassroots as a lower deal. I mean, I understand you may not agree. I'm not hating you.
I don't agree with you. But it sounds like you're really upset about this and passionate about it. I mean, you know, listen, I'll meet you halfway, but I never knew that's what you were upset about. But we go back about a month ago, that flow deal. You know, it's like, hey, Kyle Larson's going to be here. And, I mean, the racetrack sold out. He battles for the win. And it's the biggest flow. I'm the opposite of you. Kyle Larson comes to these races. Boucher comes to these races. And they sell them out. And it draws a lot of attention to dirt racing. And, you know, all of a sudden, Kyle Larson cannot outrun Brandon Overton. And
that's great. Yes, that's great.
That's right. So I mean,
some people don't want Kyle to show up. I know some people personally who have super late model teams that don't want Kyle to be there. He shouldn't be taking our money. I say that's stupid. You want Kyle Larson to be there, and you want to whoop his ass. So that you can show everyone, I just whooped Kyle Larson's ass.
And they do.
But this is what media does. When Kyle Larson goes and wins a late model race, it's front page for NASCAR on Fox. When Kyle Busch wins a Tulsa Shootout heat race, it's posted on NASCAR on Fox.
And you don't
want when Kyle Larson runs 10th at Eldora last year, don't hear nothing about it. So that shows you the game that is played. Everyone's trying to project their sport as the best. Everybody can say kumbaya, work together, but this is a promoter's challenge. That's why Earl Baltus put on the big shows that he did. He paid 50 grand when he knew NASCAR was paying 47 because he recognized that promoters are competing as well in different forms of motorsport are competing as well as NASCAR when they were going up against IndyCar racing for the majority of their career until the mid-90s. They don't want to give that grass back. There's no way.
All right, so I want to interject right here because, Kenny, on your podcast earlier this week, you touched on something that is very relevant to what we're talking about right now. Talking about your left rear quarter panel getting knocked off 50 out of 70 races. And I know what you told me when we talked before. Do you think people do that just because you were a NASCAR driver and they had an opportunity to knock your quarter panel in?
Of course.
They tell me they do. They tell me they do. Here's these guys. They watch me build my own race cars. They watch me drive my truck. They watch me do everything at the racetrack by myself. They want to beat Kenny Wallace. And here's what's crazy. I'm not that good. I'm a C+ race car driver. Hell, I've only won, a handful of races.
You're the leading points leader right now in the UMP national standings.
I got to promote myself because I got great sponsors.
Oh,
Chaz.
well, come on. I mean, I will say the little bit that I've been in the UMP circle, I've been around a lot of places. IMCA is kind of global, so it's not really a regional deal. You can find IMCA pretty much everywhere. But that little pocket of UMP there in Illinois, St. Louis, northern Missouri, y'all have the modifieds in particular are some of the most, and I know a lot of, are some of the most cutthroat pitting areas I've ever been in. There's some real hatred between pitting areas in UMP modifieds. What is up with that? Have you heard about this? I mean, I go from one pitting area to another, and it's motherfuck him. It's big. I mean, it's a real deal.
I gained a lot of respect because I raced with those guys hard, whether it's Mike Harrison or Ray Bollinger or a lot of these guys are hardcore Central Illinois bull ring racers, and I wanted to be like them. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to race them. And that's what I'm doing. And they're all my friends. And we just go at it. And, it's a different style of racing. Brandon Shepard, Bobby Pierce, they get it. Untzinger, Kevin Weaver. That's that whole Fairbury, Peoria deal. That's just the way it is.
It's very cutthroat, man. Verbally. It's verbally cutthroat, not just the racing. It's verbally cutthroat. You got pitting areas.
It ain't easy.
Not like pitting areas right there. I mean, you're right there.
It ain't
that
easy.
Guy, Chaz, get on the live and tell me some other. I'm like, I don't even know the guy. What are you talking about?
It ain't easy, baby.
You got Nick.
That's the way it is.
Nick Hoffman just basically said, everybody wants to call my car out for cheating. Why don't you work on your own car?
They're jealous.
Hey, you tell Nick Hoffman, Mr. Fuel Cell, I mean, Nick Hoffman is Nick Hoffman. I mean, he's great. He's grand. And it's something I wanted to talk about. We could go down the turmoil of the racing situation. And the reason I'm passionate about it, mad about it, because I'll tell you what, just real quick, I still do love sprint car races, top of the line to me. I mean, if I look at it now, dirt racing is more like the NHRA. And top of the line body cars is late models, top of the line, top fuel car is sprint car. And that's how I think dirt racing is. You got funny cars in your open wheel, your sprint car. And one of the things that really made me upset was back in 2016. I used to weigh 450 pounds. I don't know if you knew that, Kenny. I've gained a little weight back on, but I went down to 300 pounds and I was an announcer doing stuff at the Devil's Bowl Speedway, Mesquite, Texas. And I got to hot lap a car. And I did really well. Actually, the guy still owes me $200 because I was faster than him. Regardless, next day I wake up. Brian Clausen died the same night at Bell.
Yeah, bad deal. Horrible.
Yeah. And then a week goes by. And, of course, when I'm marketing, I'm milling out things left and right. I'm doing all the legwork. And I can't get nobody to give a damn about this dirt deal. You know how hard it is to get up in these mainstream Fox News just to give any attention to the dirt deal is a hard gig. And then I noticed how everybody was all of a sudden caring about Brian Clausen now that he died. Then I saw his fiance do a video I think it was from Knoxville, when all these people had, or Kokomo, might have been Kokomo. All these people that came up, lined up, and were there to say graces and all that. And her quote literally was, "I wish these people were here while he was racing." You know, and that in my position where I'm looking at my racers too every week, I'm looking at these, I'm marketing these guys. These are my racers, you know, half-mile sprint cars, you know, modified. I'm trying to make people or help people come out and watch them while they're alive.
How old are you? How old are you?
34 now. 34. This was about 7 years ago.
You remind me of a young me. You're ready.
Well,
you're ready.
I hear that all the time. I mean, I hear that all the time. I hear that's the third person I've heard that from.
You're ready to take on the world. And
the world's coming. The world's coming. Hey, we are in a dream right now. Hey, live it up. That's how I look at it. We are in a dream right now. Whatever you want to do it, because one day the day ain't gonna come. You know, but I just looked at that and was very offended. Same thing with Kevin Ward Jr. When that situation occurred. They don't call the track. They don't care. When a dude gets killed, oh, let's see what they're doing.
Chaz.
You know, and that's worth changing, though. And there's a lot. No, hold on. There's logical reasons for that to change. Because, for one, it should change. There's nothing to say that these guys are not that valuable. If I got to be the one guy to get on camera and to say that these guys are not valuable, talented, top of the line, the best in the world, while there's somebody on ESPN in their organization prancing around acting like they're the best in the world.
There's a song about that.
I'm the one guy that's saying that they ain't.
There's a song about that. It goes like this. You got the bubble-headed bleach blonde. She comes on at 5. She tells you about the plane crash with a gleam in her eye. People love it when you die. Give me dirty laundry. Chaz, that's the nature of the beast. That's life. You're young.
That can be the nature of the beast. But the reason they ain't out there watching Brian Clausen before he dies is because of what they perceive him to be. These dirt racers are some of the most talented damn races there are. And I'll tell you this. NASCAR being the NFL of motorsports kills racing, destroys racing. Because that heyday we're talking about, I mean, everybody can go look up 1992 ASA Southwest NASCAR race. We're on Horner Day at Phoenix. This is NASCAR Southwest race. You ain't even national. They're full. There's 45, 50,000 people in the stands for a local regional series. And I believe that is
what are you going to do to fix it? What are you going to do to fix it?
Media controls this stuff. We're in the media realm. That's why social media is under attack.
You're
social
young.
Media.
Take over the world.
I'm not trying to take over the world.
Yeah, you are.
You got to work together to do. You got to work together. Look, the racing world isn't even the world to begin with. It's not even the world to begin with. It can be changed. Damn. My point is that let's just back it down. NASCAR being this one organization that's represented nationally to the average folk as this NFL level kills racing overall. Because unlike back in that day when it was ESPN Speed World, when Speed World would show different forms of sport, everything was kind of a little bit more even as far as respect and glamour. IndyCar a little bit higher because they had the Indy 500. NASCAR was a little bit higher with Daytona 500. Y'all had your own little ends. People was viewing different types of racing. So if they didn't think NASCAR was cool, well, this sprint car looks cool, or this Indy car looks cool. I like that. I like racing. Whereas now, the average person views NASCAR as racing. And that's just a fact. They don't know anything else. A damn late model's a 70 Charger. A sprint car's a Miata. A modified, what's that, a 68 Nova? They don't have any options. So they walk into the racing restaurant now, and if you don't eat NASCAR, you don't eat racing. You leave the fucking restaurant. And that's one of the biggest problems with this situation, with NASCAR being represented as an NFL level situation.
Chaz,
this is true. There's no.
Chaz,
I know.
Chaz, shut the fuck up for a minute. You're hurting my ears.
It's hard for me to do that, Tim.
You're hurting my ears. Jesus Christ.
I have a pretty,
listen to me.
Voice.
I love you. I love you. You are angry as hell, buddy. God damn,
hey,
calm down.
Hey, there's a lot of things to be angry about in this racing world.
I get it, but take it easy. No, I love you. I love you. I love you.
Okay.
Right. Take it easy. My God.
Okay. Hey, my God.
You won't even let me talk. You won't even let me
I'm waiting.
talk.
I'm waiting.
Chill.
I'm waiting.
You number one, here's what I've learned. You hate NASCAR.
I don't hate NASCAR.
Okay.
I believe that everyone can work together when they're working together. I don't hate NASCAR. I just don't think the perception is correct.
All right, so
okay.
you let Kenny talk, so we're going to move over. There's 100 comments over here with that.
Well, of course there's 100 comments.
All right, so let's shift out of NASCAR to some degree.
Oh, God.
There's a news story last week out of Dale Jr. that left over, and you mentioned it earlier. North Wilkesboro. The happenings going on at North Wilkesboro. Nobody has mentioned the little side note Dale Jr. put out on his podcast. Did you happen to hear that, Kenny?
No, what did he say?
He said, I want to take my late model and go race those weekly shows up there. I love North Wilkesboro. He even mentioned that when they rip the asphalt up and bring the dirt, he is going to have a tailgate party every night during those. So you've got that person right there. What are your thoughts on that, and why has that been glossed over? Because that, to me, that's a huge story.
Well, the whole deal is fantastic if you follow the dots. So the state of North Carolina, during this whole coronavirus thing, everybody got a lot of money. And there's a list that came out yesterday. You know, Charlotte Motor Speedway got like $11 million. Wilkesboro got like $7 million. So what they decided to do was fix Wilkesboro back up and make it not a local, but make it a short track. So what they said is the asphalt's done. So we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it all up for one whole month in August. If you notice, they've sealed all the cracks. So for a couple weeks or so longer, they're going to run asphalt, big asphalt races. Then they're going to tear the asphalt up, like get rid of it, because it's got to put new asphalt in anyway. So then they're going to make it a dirt track, and it's a win-win for everybody, because they're going to run asphalt, they're going to run dirt, and it's all because they got that virus money, like $7 million. And, Governor Cooper, he's up there. Yes, he's a Democrat, but they're thankful for him getting all the money for him. And they're just going to fix the racetrack up. And Dale Jr. is a big fan of it. And so that's all good. We saved another racetrack.
Yeah, well, and a lot of the racetracks that are involved do get a lot of tax dollars. Just normal NASCAR track. Did the situation in St. Louis get any help from the state tax wise or no?
I don't know. I just know that
I would assume.
I just know that I lived in Charlotte for 27 years. There's thousands and thousands of people that work in the sport. So it's one of the it's like you got Duke and North Carolina basketball, and you got racing, and it's a big boom. It's a big deal. So there's a lot of people that get paid a lot of money. So it's in their best interest in the state of North Carolina to protect racing, because it creates thousands of. I mean, between the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, the Truck Series, and all the local short track racing, there's a lot of jobs in the state of North Carolina.
And I would say, Roy, if more people want to find out, I believe it's Racetrack Revival is a big part of that on Facebook with the XR people. They're kind of people who did the Bristol Dirt Nationals and the XR Super Series. They're involved with that whole situation. So,
did either of y'all happen to watch the video that is floating around? I want to say I saw it on TikTok, of Benny Parsons' widow. I didn't know she was a major player in that. She was talking about basically the finish list that Benny gave her when he was right before he passed away. She said it had like 20 items on it that was to complete it, like her house, the winery, the vineyards, and the last thing on that was to reopen North Wilkesboro Speedway. And she said it's happened. She said she finally got to take that list and set it on fire and burn it. It was probably one of the most touching things I've seen on TikTok. That I didn't know she was a part of that, or Benny Parsons was a part of that.
It makes sense. It makes sense because although Benny is basically a Michigan boy. He he grew up in that Wilkes County. He talked about it all the time. I guess he has a true passion for that area.
Yeah. So I just thought, because you're all.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you were bragging up about Dale Jr. Y'all were always talking about him, trying to get him to drive a modified and all that stuff. And with the dirt coming up, with him being and wanting to be so much a part of it, I would like to say there might be a chance you get to see him hit a dirt track one time up there in North, because he was really passionate about that in his podcast about going there, and everybody, his crew was highly shocked. I mean, you got Matthew Dillner and all those guys who were with him. They're like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Absolutely. I've always wanted to go back and drive my late."
Well, he made a good point that he didn't want to face the embarrassment. You know, there's an expectation. If you're an NFL player and then you go down to the AAA and these AAA guys just put you in the B main at the back, you know, you don't want to have that embarrassment factor. You know, I think now with him going and kind of getting not necessarily embarrassed in Xfinity, but he's a retired racer now. He's just doing it for fun. If he goes and runs the North Wilkesboro on a dirt, you know, and doesn't perform well, okay, well, he's just having fun. It makes more sense if that was to happen now.
So Chaz, Carl Edwards, Jamie McMurray, Rusty Wallace, myself, we were all broke on our ass. We come from nothing. We made it to NASCAR. Right. So the thing with Dale Jr. and that podcast that I did, when you're that popular, it's hard for you to go out to eat. Right. I didn't want him to get hurt. I didn't want him, you know, there was no reason for him to go to a dirt race and never have been in a dirt car before. I'm tough. I don't give a fuck what you say about me. You can kiss my ass. I will go run a dirt race and learn how to do it in front of everybody. I did not want Dale Jr. going through that because he's a good person. So it's not that he's a NASCAR guy and he's going to get his feelings hurt. It's just that everybody that made it to NASCAR, they were, you know, I talked to Terry Phillips about this. Him and Jamie McMurray, they raced together. Everybody, most of the people that made it to NASCAR, they were somebody. Now, there's some people that, you know, got there because of money, but they got talent. Dale Jr., and we covered this on his podcast, I didn't want him to have to go through it. I can handle myself. But so it's all good.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, maybe a Prelude to the Dream would have fit him a little bit better. You know? When it's Prelude, I always make a joke. I say the Prelude to the Dream was kind of like the Special Olympics of dirt racing, just because it was the guys who don't know what they're doing out there. They're not going up against the top tier, a super late model guys, you know, or just the amateur dirt racer.
And Billy Moyer and John, and everybody wanted to be part of it because you know, everybody likes. Ain't nobody got no ill will out for anybody. You know, NASCAR's NASCAR. You know, Mark Martin talks about it all the time. What we're watching Flow Racing and XR doing right now, paying $30,000. Dirt's awesome right now. You know, Bill once said to me, he said, "Herman, there's room for everybody." That, you know, and there is. Everything's good right now.
I mean, I wrote an article last month that, you know, if something goes wrong with Kyle Busch in NASCAR, that he should just go full-time dirt late model racing. That's where the money's being made. That's where the money. When you look at how much money it takes to be a NASCAR operation, you can't win that back. There's no damn way. Whereas if you're successful enough in today's world, especially with the million coming up, Dirt Million at Eldora, you could at least win back your operational expenses. There's almost no way possible for you to do that in cup racing. I mean, they only kind of promote what they pay at the Daytona 500 and the All-Star race. We kind of don't know what NASCAR actually pays at a weekly event that they have. So, I mean, it's logical. I honestly wanted to ask you your opinion on the modified scene, because I just was up here with Mike McKinney, guy who runs in the UNP.
I know Mike real well.
Hey, he's a great guy. I've known him for a long, long time, actually. He was at USNTS. Now, what is USMTS to UMP guys? Obviously, y'all are kind of I would say the smallest pond of modified, open wheel modified racing when you're compared to IMCA, especially. That's the biggest lake there is.
Right.
And then USMTS, USRA is pretty much got a good portion of the Midwest, whereas it's like UMP, you have your southeastern tracks a little bit. They're kind of spotty in PA. There's not a lot, but y'all are kind of like the heavy hitting motor. You know, y'all are the open division. IMCA modifieds are crate modifieds. They're not really even modifieds.
So everybody, I'll answer that for you. Everybody has their place. First of all, IMCA is, and we all know this, IMCA is the oldest sanctioning body
in the United States. In
the United States, older than NASCAR. IMCA,
the only one that beat them was AAA, but they dropped out after the big wreck. So,
but yeah, IMCA and Brett Root, they're awesome. They were the ones that said we have to do something with our sport to make it more affordable. They went to the 604 crate. You know, it's a $7,000 short block. And I talk to those guys all the time, and I run IMCA cars, and it's a great series. You know, but it's all relative. You know, they run for like $500 to win for their feature, but they're only paying $7,000 for a motor. So it's all relative. It's like gambling blackjack. You play 5, you win 5. You know.
So well, when I was talking to McKinney, you know, there was 80 cars at Mississippi Thunder Speedway.
Yeah.
And Kay Dillard is 11th in the B main. You know, I mean, this is Kay Dillard, and I'm from Texas. He was a bad son of a bitch, and he logically, he would be your World Outlaw Late Model Series champion, or at least a contender last year until he had his issues with the World Racing Group. And Rodney Sanders was in the B main. This USMTS deal, I just think it doesn't get almost. I mean, like I said, I could be mad at NASCAR all I want, but you could take that same structure of money and position and place it into dirt racing. It's just a microcosm of the same situation.
So
go ahead.
So then USMTS is what I call the NASCAR.
Right.
USMTS is the NASCAR modifieds. It is a great series, pays a lot of money to win. I think Todd Staley's done a good job at slowing the traveling down. For a while there, 10, 15 years ago, they were running 80 races a year, and everybody was running ragged. Now they're running less, running for more money. It's just, you know, it's pretty much an open motor with a spec head, but the motors are still expensive. And when you go to those races, ain't nobody got more. They all got $1 million total homes, and they all got full, 2-3 employees. And I told Will Krupp and I told McKinney, I said, when you guys go run that USMTS now,
look out.
they got what you got, including talent. So, it's like Dale Earnhardt Sr. told me years ago. He said, Herman, there's thousands of great race car drivers all over the United States. They only start 43 every week in NASCAR back in the it's hard to put 1,000 cars in the starting field.
Right.
And I told Mike Harrison that. I said, Mike, you're a great race car driver, but, some people just, they get married, 19, 20 years old. Not everybody can make it to NASCAR. But those 3 series that you just mentioned, they all have their spot, and they all cover every region. IMCA, they don't mess with anything east of the Mississippi, and UMP don't mess with anything west of the Mississippi, and everybody's doing good.
Well, and I would agree with your Dale Earnhardt Sr. statement. There's only 43 going to NASCAR, and that's why I think, and even in his growing up day, there needs to be more than just NASCAR that is known and respected as having the baddest ass talented drivers in the country. This notion that motorsports is like football or baseball is completely wrong.
You're repeating yourself.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Your point you made. Your point you made is easily combated with the solution. And I think that solution was already instilled. I think racing needs to go back to how it operated, not how it is today. So
here's the solution. It's these 3 faces that are on the screen right now talking about racing on a regular basis. Kenny using his platform to promote his dirt racing. All of us combined, whether we agree or disagree or whatever. That's kind of why I like doing shows like this. We're drawing attention to racing. It doesn't matter if it's asphalt, dirt, whatever. That's why I like doing the show. I don't get paid to do this. This is just fun. I enjoy doing this. It's fun for me.
Question, just one more before we got to get out of here. We're coming up on an hour. I'm sure he's got a lot more things to do. I don't know if Cardinals baseball is tonight, but hey, that's a whole nother
We
subject.
got beat by the Mets today in extra innings.
Oh, well, now we got something to cry about. I want your opinion on this situation. I don't just sit here and get mad about racing as much as and it's not really mad. It's I think we got to create solutions, and I've helped some drivers get some respect that I think they deserve. On that same notion, something happened earlier to me this year, and I would like your opinion on it. Okay? And in your recent YouTube video, you actually mentioned the driver at hand. I was at the Tulsa Shootout this year, and a driver with a last name did not make the show. Okay? And we know Tulsa Shootout, Chili Bowl, if you don't make it, you don't make it. You got provisionals for like recent champion, but if you don't make it, you don't make it.
Right.
The promoter of the show wanted to give this driver a provisional.
Braxton Bush.
They accepted this provisional, and it was going to happen. They announced it over the intercom. Every driver or team, it ain't can't even say driver, it's other 6-year-olds that this is happening to. Fathers raised hell. Then they said, okay, well, all top 4 from all B mains will make the show. Well, when you don't make it at Tulsa Shootout, you start loading your shit because they tell you to get out as soon as the deal packs. So there's cars already loaded up. We can't go get our cars. Everybody's raising hell. Okay, we're just going back to putting him back in the show.
Yeah.
So let me just explain, then you can go. Every person who knows who I am I went over to Kyle, asked him what's going on. Oh, they just like it. They just wants to be in the show. Okay. Everyone's running up to me saying, Chaz, you have to say something about this. This is not right. I go live after being almost peer pressure to being live. Reported the situation, talked to a family who was in the same race. The video reaches about 40,000 views in less than 15 minutes. He's still going in the show. This is about 30 minutes into this whole situation. About 10, 15 minutes goes by. Chaz Thompson to the ticket office, please. That's when they take me in there, cut my wristband off, kick me out of the building. And then, all of a sudden, he's not taking the provisional and he rejected it. Now, everybody is out there saying I did this horrible thing and attacked a 6-year-old, when really I was standing up for other 6-year-olds who ain't in a monarchy. You know, that's closer to what the racing world is, celebrating families and last names. So I would like your opinion on that. Are we getting to a point to where a situation like that arises, and if there ain't some one person going to tell the world what's happening in this building, that this little building gets away with that? Because I was told by officials who are fans of mine who work at the facility, because not everybody making choices there were against what I did. They were for it because they like fair. We have to keep some kind of rules and fairness in motorsports. You have to teach a Braxton Bush, if you don't make it, you're not going to make it. And you have to teach these other kids who ain't Braxton Bush that if you beat him, you're going to get treated like you did. You know, where are we going in this sport where that's wrong? Or that's right to push somebody into a position just because of who they are and where they're from?
Yeah, so my opinion on that is twofold. Number one, Braxton did not deserve to be in the race.
Wrong, and he didn't do nothing wrong. The kid is the innocent person. I want to make that
right.
The promoter's the problem.
Yeah, so you got roughed up, and you want to know what I think about you being roughed up. I think that's bit.
You have a relationship.
Yeah,
I
don't. That's the world we live in now, Chaz. This shit's hardcore. This social media has destroyed life. It's good and it's bad, and it's the percentage that we all want to put on it. It's like right now. Here we are. I said, one day I said, it's like nobody's famous anymore. They said because everybody's famous. Used to be Elvis Presley and Dale Earnhardt, and oh my God, you'd wait to see them. Well, now they record their lives. Even me, you, the trucker.
Yeah.
You know, my buddy Ed Renzi, he's on Fox all the time. Everybody's everywhere. So I think you were a victim of social media.
But I was told that if that doesn't happen, they get away with it. That pushes through. Because I was the one who took what they were doing in a building.
That's how powerful social media is.
But isn't that a good thing? I would say social media is bad if you're just sitting on your phone all day. But I think social media is good in exposing some corruptions. It is good because a regular guy can do something, whereas the media that's bought and paid to hush their mouth, or you'll get kicked out, they hush their mouth.
So I just got to say this for a minute because I'm going to give you an example. I understand your platform, okay? When I was working for Fox Sports for 15 years, and later on, like maybe 10 years into the deal, me and the president of Fox, Eric Shanks, he's the president of Fox Sports. He's looking at me and says, "You know why we hired you, Kenny Wallace?" I said, "No, why?" They said, "Because you got a lot to say. But when you say it, you're not mean about it." So like if they say, "Hey, how come Bobby Labonte's not running good?" And I'm like, "Well, because Bobby Labonte's engineers aren't up to speed as good as Tony Stewart's engineers."
Right.
It's like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said, hold on, what I said. You know, I can't believe you just said that. We got to live with what we say, and we got to move on. You look at Joe Rogan right now. How'd you like to be him? I mean, this guy's getting 100 million views, and he's still going to sleep at night. So it just depends what you want in life.
I've been roughed up more than that Tulsa Shootout situation. Roy can attest to that. I mean, I've faced
it's because you ain't afraid.
Well, and the fear of physical or the fear of money is what people are trading off for truth. They're trading money for truth.
I would, listen, I'm into sports psychology. I am because, that's just the way life is. And I'm into
Art of War is a great book.
So I would say, you got to know what you want out of life. How do you want to portray yourself? Do you want to be portrayed as the combative guy? Do you want to be portrayed as the guy that wants to break subjects down? Hey, here we are. Welcome. I'm the Chaz. Today we're going to talk about the dirty sliders. And then the next day it's something different.
I think you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. There's going to be half of the people that think you're an asshole and half of the people that think you're a hero. Look at Trump. Look how many people love the guy and how many people want him to die. I mean, you're never going to satisfy people. I just believe in saying whatever you think, and then people just take it however they want it.
Without getting personal. Without getting personal. Without getting personal. You can get your point across without getting personal. And I did that. That's what I'm saying.
Right. What is personal is also degraded. I mean, people can take things personally when it shouldn't have been.
True. It's all in perception.
Right.
I know, like, people are like, man, what's that Kurt Busch and Kyle Busch like? I'm like, they're really nice guys. Oh, but when they're on TV, I'm like, whoa, hold on. They just wrecked out. They don't take losing lightly. If you were to hang around them now, if you're going to
unless you listen to Tommy Baldwin, unless you listen to what Tommy Baldwin had to say, I mean,
it all goes back.
I'm just saying,
it all goes back to be careful, young man. Competition will kill you. So you
just can't be afraid to race.
I would say that the Chaz has a voice. You've got a group of people that want to hear what you got to say because they know you're hardcore, and they're wanting you to shock them, like Howard Stern, shock jock.
Yeah, that's what they keep saying, shock jock. Yeah. I don't like that comparison. I mean, I just sit here and say what I think. I think a lot of people, media is biased. They're bought and paid for in this racing world. Nobody's actually just saying blatant truths.
I can tell you this: my hand on a Bible, on my 3 children. And I swear to God on this, Fox Sports Speed never, ever told me what to say, ever. Now, do people want to be a complete prick? I mean, it's kind of, I mean,
perception is reality for multiple people. You can't satisfy everyone's perception.
Okay, like let's say like this. Let's say that Chaz has got a show and he's making $100,000 a year, and the reason he's making $100,000 a year, hold on, the reason you're making $100,000 a year is because Home Depot sponsors the show,
right?
And then but you go, but they like you, but then all of a sudden you just go trash, and they're like, hey, you know what? These guys used to buy stuff from us. They're not buying anymore because he's negative all the time. He's not making me happy.
Or if the Home Depot car does something wrong and I call it out, that's counterintuitive to your supporters. Yeah, that's what I mean by being bought.
But you can say, hey, listen, I know this is a little, there's a lot of ways to deliver situations. You can be a prick and deliver it nice. I can tell people to get fucked. They go, hey, fuck you. Or I can go, fuck you. There's a couple different ways.
Difference, yes.
There's a couple different ways in delivery. I would just say that, delivery is important. Chaz, you can say whatever you want to say. I mean, you're popular, and I think you should be good with that. I think that, listen, you called them out at the Chili Bowl. You embarrassed them, and they wanted you maybe to come to them and say, hey, what's the story? But I ain't got no qualms with you. I mean, do your deal.
I was just curious because that was a situation where it's once again a microcosm of how the racing world works. I think you either play ball or you get kicked out.
I feel like this, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I feel like, how do I say this? I feel like you're angry a lot, and I feel like you can be the same Chaz without being so damn mad. You got a lot of good stuff to say. You're very knowledgeable.
There's some things that I get pissed off about. Yes,
but
I think there's things that people get pissed off about, and I think
why do you get so mad?
I don't necessarily think it's bad to get mad on camera. I mean,
yeah, but you got to control yourself.
It's natural emotion.
But
there are certain topics that will get me mad. There's certain topics that won't. I think that's how everybody operates. Everybody has something that'll make them upset, and everybody has something that won't. I mean, I believe in authenticity. You're going to get mad if I'm mad about something. You can get happy if I'm happy about it. That's just how I roll. It's authentic. I don't want to be fake. I think there's too many fraudulent people out there. I'm not saying you are.
I already told you I love you. I feel like you've been roughed up somewhere early in your life.
No, no.
Well, you're one pissed off man. I can tell you that.
Well, I've experienced some stuff in racing. I've experienced some stuff in racing promotion that more people should be upset about. There's some things that need to be changed.
You got
and there's life, and I mean there is life and death somewhat in this situation. I want these guys to be idolized while they're living instead of when they're dead. That may be where it hits. I really didn't get too pissed, so I start talking about that. But that's a reality. That's not a falsity. That is real.
I sang you that song. That's
I know. All right, I experienced it with Greg Hodman. I mean, as well after that, and it's just not right to me. So some people can be passionate about it and want males to compete with females in Olympics. They're out there screaming about that. At least I'm screaming about some race car drivers that logically deserve to get the respect they deserve.
Right.
All right. We've done an hour here. Let's just call it a show here. Hang tight there, guys.